Hello everybody, today we're going to take an updated look at the 2024 Democratic primary. I last did this a few months ago, so we're going to see if anything's changed. So let's get right into it. We're on Wikipedia, and we're going to go down to the major candidates. There's still only the three, not a lot changed here. We've got Biden, Kennedy, and Williamson. We'll get to the polling, but we all know Biden is the clear frontrunner, Kennedy in a distant second, Williamson usually in third place. So there are no new candidates in the race, nobody's dropped out. Over the last few months, Williamson, she's maintained her position as the progressive outsider. She has gotten smeared in the media. Kennedy has also gotten smeared. He's run into some controversies, kind of been painted as a Republican, even though he has a history as well as most of his current views. They're going to much more align with the Democrats than the Republicans, but he's not going to get any favorable coverage. Neither is Williamson because they're a threat to Biden and the establishment. At least that's how I see it. There's no way there can be any serious favorable coverage of either of these two. A lot of the coverage I've seen doesn't even acknowledge them as serious candidates. But the more of a threat they become in the polls, and the more their outsider status is raised, then I think it's much more likely the smears will intensify. Some criticisms against them are valid, just like there's plenty against Biden that are valid. But of all the media coverage on both sides, I think it's pretty clear that Biden is going to get the most favorable coverage out of anybody. So other candidates, Joe Exotic, now he's somebody I think you could view as a non-mainstream candidate, unlike Kennedy and Williamson. Jerome Siegel, he's dropped out. And we've got some decisions pending here from Joe Manchin, Dean Phillips, and apparently Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks. It's hard to think anybody could jump into this thing at this point and actually give Biden a run for his money. I know there's some speculation about Gavin Newsom gearing up in the event that something happens to Biden. That's pretty much the only avenue for any of these other candidates. Biden would have to be in some sort of a coma or have some indictments of his own. Short of that, it's very likely it's going to be Biden. So we've got the huge list of declined to be candidates, including Gavin Newsom. Of course, there's always time for people to change their minds, but there's a lot of names on this list that are not going to be running for president. But how about vice president? Well, there's not much speculation for the Democrats because as of now, we still have Harris. She's going to be Biden's running mate. She's the current VP. Why not stick with it? Just like Trump stuck with Pence. I remember there was the usual speculation that Trump might unload Pence for somebody else. In the end, didn't happen. I have a hard time imagining Biden's going to dump Harris. Her favorables are not good, and I think he could strengthen the ticket a lot better, but I think he's going to run up against identity politics, and it's going to look like he made the wrong choice to begin with. So for now, it's almost certain to be Harris. And then we've got the primary calendar, where the DNC has moved the first primary from New Hampshire to South Carolina. As far as I'm aware, that is still not completely settled. New Hampshire, not a fan of that move. I think it's pretty clear it's to bolster Biden's chances. South Carolina is where he took off from back in 2020, so we'll see what happens with that. Here's the debate section, or lack thereof. We know the DNC says they will not sponsor any debates. It says here there's a poll from June. 8 out of 10 Democratic voters would like to see Biden debate other Democratic candidates. Even among Biden supporters, it's over 70% that want to see him debate other candidates. And I'm always pro-debate. I understand if you're the frontrunner with a massive lead, you really can only do more bad than good. But for all the voters out there, that's not going to be good enough. They want to see you on that stage. They want to see you contrast yourself with your opposition, even more so for the sake of the process, and especially if you're the party that is constantly talking about democracy. It says here Williamson has criticized the decision as rigging and candidate suppression. It's hard to disagree with that. Of course, you have to draw the line somewhere. You can't get everybody on the stage that's polling at 1%, but if they're polling at 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20%, those are legitimate candidates. Get them on the stage. Let's see a debate. Biden would still probably win, probably by less, but I think there would be much more respect for the voters than to scrap the entire debate process. Now, I know this would happen on both sides. This is much more of an establishment in power type of dynamic. This time the Democrats are in power. They don't want to rock the boat, so they want to assume that there's only Biden out there when that is obviously not true. So moving on from that, we've got the endorsements. Biden has his own page. You can look at that if you'd like. We've got Kennedy's endorsements. We've got Williamson's endorsements. But let's get down to the polling. Well, there actually has not been that much change over the past few months. Right now in the aggregate, Biden's right in the mid-60s. Kennedy's at about 13. Williamson, she's at about 6 to 7. That's more than a 50% margin for Biden. There's still a good chunk, maybe around 15 to 17% that are undecided. And we've all seen the polls that do not want to see Trump and Biden again. And just isolating it to the Democrats, a ton of those voters want to see anybody other than Biden. He was able to squeak by and beat Donald Trump last time, so they're probably going to rally around him, more so in opposition to Trump than they are in favor of Biden. So you can scroll through all these these polls here, there's usually 2 or 3 a week that come out, and Biden is clearly leading all of them. Kennedy gets close to 20%, but he hasn't really improved his margin in recent times. Again, I think some of that is because some of the comments he's made, and most of the mainstream media is running wild with that. They're not looking for anything good he has to say. They're pretty much only looking for the worst takes, and maybe some of it is legitimate, and I'm not following all of it, but I would guess that there's more to Kennedy than Kennedy just being portrayed as some crazy racist conspiracy theorist. If you go all the way down past the polls, we've got campaign finance, and this does not include contributions made by super PACs. Obviously, Biden the huge fundraiser, but Kennedy has pulled in some donations. Williamson, she's got some herself. So if you want to see the status of this race on a graph, we can switch over to Real Clear Politics. There again, in the aggregate, Biden is leading by 53, but here's a change over the last 4 to 5 months, and it's pretty stagnant. Kennedy's support has ticked down slightly, Biden pretty much maintaining his lead. Not much has changed. Early on, it already seemed like it was going to be Biden, but now that we've seen almost no movement in this race, at some point you might have to consider these candidates might drop out. They both might go into the primaries. Kennedy's best chance might be in Iowa and in New Hampshire if Biden doesn't campaign there and his name is on the ballot. I don't know where Williamson goes from here. She's clearly the progressive. She should get a lot of the Bernie vote, as well as some of the anti-establishment Democrats. Kennedy, I think, is going to get some disaffected voters. I think a lot of them would lean Democrat, and those are voters that I think generally would like to support the Democrats, but they're just looking for some pushback on maybe 1 or 2 issues, and Kennedy might be their guy. Now, in a general election, I do think he would get some Republican vote, more so now than I did a few months ago, but this guy is a Democrat. He's got a long track record of being a Democrat, but his support has not increased. He's still got time, but it's not looking good for Kennedy or Williamson. So the last thing we could do is get on Predicted to see where people are putting their money. Here it is right here. Who will win the 2024 Democratic presidential nomination? Biden, the massive frontrunner. He's at 70 cents. Second place is not Kennedy. It's not Williamson. It's not even Harris. It's Gavin Newsom. He's at 17 cents. That's not insignificant. Then we have Harris, then Kennedy, then Pete Buttigieg. As I said earlier, I guess Newsom is the backup choice. If something serious happens to Biden where he's unable to run, then Newsom is supposed to be waiting in the wings. I think that would be interesting if it's him over Harris. I suppose Newsom would be a better candidate than Harris, but he's not even in the race. He's not even really polling, yet people are betting on Newsom to be the backup. Curiously, even Williamson is not even on this list at all, not even at 1 cent. I think it's rough to be an outsider on either side, but it might even be more so on the Democratic side. They did not want to see Bernie get near the nomination. They would definitely not want to see Williamson have it. I don't know how strong she would actually be in the general election. She does have some views, usually populist economics, that most people would agree with, but she would probably be considered too far left to win the general election. Bernie had a nice movement behind him, probably would have been the nominee. Who knows if he would have won the general election. Now he's pretty much endorsed Biden and kind of abandoned his outsider status. But anyway, that's a look at what's going on in this Democratic primary. Let me know in the comments. What are your thoughts about this primary? Is there any chance it's not going to be Biden? What do you think about the debates? What do you think about Harris's VP? How about the media portrayal of Williamson and Kennedy? Let me know your thoughts down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.